Well, the number of Americans applying for unemployment is on the rise right now. 23,000 claims just in the past week alone. So what is contributing to this? Joining us right now is Mark Hamrick, a senior economic analyst with Bankrate. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark.
Hello, Jen. Thank you.
All right, so tell us what's going on here. I'm sure the pandemic must be having some kind of an impact on this.
Well, let's think first of all about the fact that coming into today's report, we had been seeing new unemployment claims, new applications for unemployment benefits really at the lowest levels in decades. And so we saw a bit of a pop up today, and we're seeing in some of the larger states like New York, California, Texas, Florida, larger increases there. And until this report today, I would say we had not seen any indications that the latest COVID variant was taking a toll. But that is where I think my suspicion first goes to. Good news is here in the state of Connecticut, we actually saw a modest decline. So apparently not so much of an impact here locally, not yet. But obviously, this latest wave of COVID is having a negative impact on the economic recovery. And how long that occurs, the extent of that is dependent on how long the wave occurs as well.
Certainly a wait and see game, that's for sure. I know you were just talking about some of the states, and you said here in Connecticut we were still seeing that decline, but just tell us one more time what states were seeing the most unemployment applications, and also what type of jobs are being lost from what you can see.
Right. Well, the biggest increases I saw here today are number one, New York and California, more than 10,000 new claims in those states. And we saw smaller increases in Florida and Texas. But I do think that you have to think about, first of all, that there's been an estimate that as much as 2% of the workforce has been sidelined here recently, whether it's people staying away from work because they're sick or they're caring for a family member or they're in quarantine. In terms of the jobs that are at risk, well, it's across the board, of course, because we know that the virus is an equal opportunity infector. But I do think that the businesses that are most at risk are those that are public facing. And so we think, for example, about Broadway plays shutting down. We think about bars and restaurants that are being affected. And there are just all the variety of enterprises and businesses that essentially have to reduce their activity or in some cases close temporarily or unfortunately in some cases permanently because they cannot get the number of employees or workers that they need. That's sort of a COVID related issue. Of course, obviously, if demand has been impacted significantly, that's another issue.
Sure, another long winter for us. Okay, so do we expect this trend to continue through 2022? I know you were saying some of this could be dependent on how long this Omicron wave goes on, but from other factors that you're looking at, what does it look like over the next month, 6 months, even a year?
Well, let's just say, I want to stay in my lane and not make predictions about where we are with the pandemic. Obviously, there are reasons to be hopeful when we look at places like the UK and South Africa. But broadly, the outlook for the job market is quite upbeat. Let's remember that the monthly unemployment rate recently went below 3.9%. At its low before the pandemic, it was 3.5%. We have seen some slowing in job creation or recovery. And our just published quarterly economic survey at Bankrate, and we have 3 stories on the site about this. Economists broadly expect further improvement in the job market this year, sufficient to basically recapture all of the jobs that were lost during the pandemic. And they also believe that inflation, which is the number one irritant to consumers right now, should peak and begin to relent in the second half of the year.
I know a lot of people concerned about inflation right now and what's going to happen in the coming months. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate, really appreciate your expertise and for joining us here in Connecticut for the News at 4.